You're listening to Forever Fierce with Catherine Grace O'Connell, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. I am Catherine Grace O'Connell, and welcome to the Forever Fierce Show. We have a double show today, but actually this one is actually airing next week. We have an incredible man who I just said I tend to stalk here at events. We have Danny DeLillo. Danny is the chairman of New Filmmakers LA. And more importantly, Danny is probably one of the kindest human beings I've ever met, who's also extremely involved in women's empowerment. So I am delighted to welcome Danny to the show as we're going to be talking about his upcoming event on March the 24th that is all about celebrating women in film. Welcome to the show, Danny.
Thank you for such a kind introduction. My goodness. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Ilyssa.
Good to be here. And I'm delighted to have Ilyssa back. Like I said, you guys know, we just shot a show with Alexandra Paul that was so amazing.
That was wonderful.
It was a fabulous
You've
show.
got big shoes to fill, Danny, but I've known you 5 minutes now. I think you might fill them.
No doubt. And Ilyssa, it's a special show today because we have two Hollywood insiders here. We have a woman who really represents, being a female director-producer in Hollywood who brings a really unique perspective to our show. And then Danny, obviously, giving us sort of the male perspective, but I like to see sort of the male-female perspective because Danny has such a unique, we're gonna pull Danny up here, a unique empathic way of supporting women. So Danny, with that, I really want to, bring it over to you on the heels of the Oscars and with your event coming up. Share with us what drove you to really support women the way that you do in Hollywood, in life as well?
Well, thank you for that. I feel that when we are fighting for equality in any form of a way, we should all step in and support. So, it so happens to be that I like to focus in on the areas of support for men, women, people of different diversity. I'm a chair of a film festival, and we try to embrace the world with local and global storytelling. And so I recognize, because I grew up around women, that when I got into the big wide world, and those being my idols, my mentors growing up, that I got into the entertainment world and I thought, why is there a difference in pay? Why is there a difference in opportunity but no lack of talent? And certainly something that struck me the most was the treatment in certain areas as well. Because, for me, I actually always feel more comfortable when there is, many women working around me, to be honest. That's how I grew up, I prefer it to men, to be honest, not dissing men. And so, and I thought, this is not right. And so it's been quite a year, because since we last spoke and since Catherine and I met a few years ago, we have gone through quite a movement and a change. And this time a year ago, around the BAFTAs, I produced a show, which is an all-female show celebrating women. And it was every great writer, director, singer, actress. It was just an incredible show with equity, British equity. And then I also made a documentary around it. Now, back then, and I didn't mention this last time we spoke, but even back then I was getting a little bit of backlash from men saying, well, it's much better for women. It's much easier for women. Why are you highlighting this? Why are you doing this? Et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, 6 months later, Me Too, Time's Up comes out and no one's laughing anymore. And so I think we recognized, and it took a movement like that to recognize that, my goodness, we've got a lot to do. And, I say that we are given this insane platform. We have the Oscars. It's absolutely unreal that we give all this attention to this one show every single year, right? But if we get that platform, then we better be showcasing and representing the world and people that we live in. Not a certain few, not a certain kind of people. We need to be representation of the world that we live in, you know, because there are people on other sides of the world that aspire to movies. It has such an effect on them. And if they see someone like them, they believe they can do it. It's like when Oprah mentioned at the Golden Globes, and she sat there and she watched on TV, she watched the Golden Globes, and she thought, wow, I can do that. When her mum had just got back home from doing, you know, a cleaning job, I think she was working 3 jobs like my mum did.
On the linoleum floor.
Right? On the linoleum floor.
On the linoleum.
And you know, and so, you know, that I mean, look, can you imagine that was a moment in time that inspired her
And that
to
did
become
that for
her.
me. I remember years ago, I was a kid in New Jersey. There was an Oscars broadcast where, and it was like one of the worst ones, I believe. I just remember like Rob Lowe singing. And they get a lot of heat for that now.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, I need to be a part of that. I didn't know what it was, but there was just something. And the next year I moved out to LA and never looked back.
See,
Because
isn't
that
that's
inspired
it.
me.
It's
Yeah.
incredible. And I think many of us, when Oprah described that
Yeah.
moment so vividly, we felt it. We could
Yeah.
see it. And we could, that seed that's implanted, it's incredible. And I know I sent you guys an email. David Schwimmer is doing this, I believe it's a hashtag, ask more of him.
Great.
He reminds me a lot of you, Danny.
Oh, wow, that's a compliment and a half. I love him. He's great.
He is incredible, but you're not just talking about it. It's not just a hashtag. You're doing something about it.
You know, this is it. Like I've actually been frustrated. You know, I'm a chair of a film festival, so I see a lot of people from all over the world coming in, flying in all over the place, and I can't sit still. I cannot sit still. I cannot allow us to continue. If I'm working in this entertainment industry and I'm still got hopefully a few years to go yet, then I want to be part of a drive that really showcases the world and people that live in it. And equality is not a luxury. It should be a given, you know? We're not talking about something that's not possible.
I like that. Equality is not a luxury. It should be a given, and
Yeah.
I agree with you. Alyssa, what's your experience, obviously, as a woman in film and the Oscars? What was the impression on you, Frances McDormand? Like, don't just say it. Let's go do it, guys.
That was amazing. The one thing that, you know, you and I were talking about a little bit off camera was the business of Hollywood. And the one thing you have to keep in mind, and I say this, you know, as a director, I'm like, more women, more women, more women. As a producer, you have to go where the money is.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times society, whether we like it or not, it is the male hero, the action star that brings in the money. So if you know, you go back to years ago, it was like a Sylvester Stallone movie, you know, or something like that. And today, you know, we have our versions of those movies, but it is, you know, the male superhero movies are bringing in the money, so that's who gets the big paychecks. And that's where the big budgets go to. Now, women are starting to break that, which is awesome. You know, going back to Wonder Woman and Black Panther and all of that, change is taking some baby steps. So it's happening, though, and that's really cool. One of the things that we also talked about earlier was about independent movies have a tendency to use women a lot. And so you're not dependent on studios and you can be much more creative. So it's just about finding the financing for those indie movies, which you probably come across, maybe not the financing, but a lot of independent movies from your film festival.
Yeah.
I bet you see some great female-driven movies.
Really great, actually. In fact, I actually want to shout out to them because we had a feature film called Quality Problems. And it was a film about a woman who had breast cancer. And she's an incredible writer, but has never acted before. And so her and her husband created a movie about her experience going through breast cancer.
Wow.
And it's literally like therapy for anyone or any mother or any wife that has gone through something like that. And I thought, wow, but again, we sort of have a certain, how do we break the mold of having like a certain kind of like, oh, we're talking about cancer, we talk about this, or what we're doing. This is actually a movie of like making you feel good and support, but again, having a leading role, like, you know, as a female.
I think that's a really important point. I think that's why a lot of, at least in my experience, why I watch shows, films, movies, because I have a personal sort of emotional experience from that. And it may change the way I think, change the way I view myself. Do you think that in your experience, Ilyssa, is that when you're making them, Do you have that experience?
I think that it definitely changes the way you think. I mean, that's one of the things that I always say is educate and entertain at the same time, and entertain in a way that people don't know they're being educated. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, I like movies because I like being entertained. Sometimes I don't like walking out of a movie feeling awful, you know, and there are some movies you're going to, and those are really important movies to see, but you know you're going to feel that way beforehand.
So there's a balance between.
So it is, you know, and how do you do that and make money? Because it is, as I said earlier, it's a business. So can I educate people? Can I entertain and amuse them? And can I make enough money that somebody will let me do this again?
I think that's really important. And I think it's important to talk about the reality. The reality is it's a business. So what we talked about before the show started, it's kind of a chicken and egg or a catch-22. It seems like it's a cultural issue. In order to see women up there as leads, you got to get women up there as leads. And if it's men who are bringing in the money, how the heck do you get women as leads?
Right. And how do you do that? And there are people that are willing to break those molds, and thank God for them, because whoever said, okay, let's give Wonder Woman her own movie.
Right.
And they were willing to do it. I'm guessing, and I don't know with any certainty, but the budget was probably less than some of the bigger movies, but it totally rocked it. And it proved you can do that.
Well, speaking of women in film, Danny, your event on the 24th at New Filmmakers LA is all about celebrating women in film, as well as celebrating Women's Independence Month.
Yeah.
So share more about that, and share more that you have an exciting director coming on board.
So actually I was very fortunate this past week to go to experience Netflix, and so New Filmmakers LA and Women in Film, we have an annual partnership to celebrate the next generation of women in film members and their great work. And so I actually managed to announce this there. And the feedback of doing a campaign for men to step up and support women, the feedback just from the audience was just reminded me why I decided to do this. And so, you know, on March 24th, as we do throughout the whole year, we always celebrate people from all over the world, from everything and all perspectives. But it is Women's Independence Month, and so every year we partner with Women in Film, the United Nations for Women, and the Alliance of Women Directors, amongst many other great organizations. And we have all female directors on show. And you know, again, it reminds me every single year, there's no lack of talent of females, it's the lack of opportunity. And so I decided after this movement and after making the documentary and everything else, that I wanted to do a campaign that was for men to step up and support women. And so it's going to be launching there at the event. And what I wanted to do was have men who work in different areas of the industry to actually come in and support not only the movement, but help how we can move this forward. Because what you said earlier, Catherine, about it's okay just saying, okay, here we are, let's say something, but what are we going to do about it? How are we going to shape it? How are we going to move things forward? And so I'm working with different people to see how we can bridge opportunities, bridge those gaps, and turn those people that maybe not have given those people the opportunity before, and sort of work together. Because I believe when we work together, if men and women work together, we will be in a much better perspective. And so this is, go ahead.
I, as a woman director, I would love to see how you do that, because what I have found that Hollywood offers women are training programs. And it drives me crazy, because I can be a director who has, you know, a body of work behind me as a producer. I segued into being a director. I've made a great film. It's made money. And then someone says, well, have you tried the CBS training program?
Oh, God, yeah.
And nobody says to anyone, and good for them for doing it, no disrespect, but you want me to go spend a year of my life for free shadowing someone else who's doing what I can already do.
Yeah. And you may do it better.
Yeah, who's already, you know, I'm just not being given the chance. And it's really frustrating, and good for the people who are doing that. And I'm not, no disrespect, but I've never seen a man in any of those programs where it's like, oh, we've got a minority training group you can go be part of. And it's like, well, no one ever said that to a guy. He's like directed a commercial for Pepsi, and suddenly he's directing the next Star Wars. And how, that's my frustration as a woman, is there's no opportunity that way.
I'm
And
so
I think
glad you said that.
if I can give you advice,
Yeah.
in a sense, it's getting agents and managers to really step up too.
Yeah.
Because I've had opportunities to have agents and they're just too busy.
Yeah.
And, when I say opportunities, there's, I really want you to rep me. You say you want to rep women, you talk about it, but then you ask me to follow up with you, and the next day I never hear from you
they're gone.
again.
Yeah.
And they're gone, and then I stalk you, and then you tell me I really like you, you're really talented, but you're busy. It's
Well, I
not me.
think-
It's not you. It's me.
I think that was the entire
Yeah.
point of Frances McDormand, and why people were just like, "Oh my God!" You saw the audience's faces, like
Yeah.
she's actually calling him out,
Yeah.
and she's saying, I don't really want to hear the shtick. Take action.
Yeah.
So how do they really take action, Danny? How do men really affect change?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned both of those things, because the last thing I want to do is just create something that just causes the wall of action and then not have anything. And I also agree as well. Like, I do think that some of these programs are absolutely fantastic, but you haven't got to go and prove yourself that you've got to be on this program to get somewhere else. It should just be given opportunity.
And by the way,
You know?
I'm just going to jump in. You and I were talking before
Yeah.
the camera was rolling, where
yeah.
you told me you were here 3 years.
Yeah.
And your response was, "I've never worked so hard in my life."
Yeah.
What my brain went to was, "Try doing it in heels."
I love
and
that.
I love you, and I'm
love
so
that.
glad you're working so hard.
Well, you don't know.
in
I
heels.
might wear heels on the weekends. Who knows, right? I mean, just yeah.
And God bless you if you do. I just hope you shave your legs up to your knees. They always forget to do
No,
that.
they probably look much better on you than they do me.
But that's that's just a thing. It's sort of like you said. How do we go beyond lip service?
Yeah.
Because it's a popular talking point right now, and a lot of people are doing it. And what it seems like that you're doing is action. And I hope that that action can be real, not from your point, but the people you talk to. Everyone's intent is really good, but then it's like where does it go beyond the press release?
Right,
Yeah.
we know
You
you're
know?
doing it, Danny,
Yeah.
but what do you tell people out there? How do men get involved if they're not the head of New Filmmakers LA? How do they affect change?
Listen for the first thing. Listen to what is, what the issue is in front. I mean, you may be part of an organization, you may recognize there might be certain things that aren't going in terms of, as equality should be in positions of jobs, et cetera, but, listen, understand. Like, I didn't just create all these different events and things without looking at what the problem actually was. I also don't like it, just because it's trending right now that we're talking about it. No, we've got a great effect to change the future. So if you are a boss at a studio, if you, are, starting a new organization, think about who you are employing and the opportunity that you are given. Like, it's not rocket science what we're trying to do. We're just trying to create fairness in the industry. And what this industry does have is a platform to replicate many other industries as well. So if you're, the CEO of a hospital, like, again, it doesn't matter where it is, we're trying to make change across globally for many different women. And so, when you're doing a good job when it comes to how you employ people, like, but are you doing the same thing if you're making your next short film? I decided that I'm making a documentary. I'm co-directing with a friend of mine called Sarah Neeson, who actually was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary, and we wanted to co-host together to show a male and female can direct. I mean, listen, she's the star, she's just let me go on board. But again, one thing that we said that when we go to have cast and crew, we are going to have an equality in terms of crew and bring opportunity to female DPs and other things, because there's a lot of avenues you've got to break. Well, all we did was decide we were going to do that, and we're making it happen. It wasn't that difficult.
Think about it. If you think about it, Time's Up, and Time's Up is newer, but Me Too has been over a decade in the making. It didn't happen overnight. And it happened with one person. So what I hear you saying, number one, it's not a trend. It's a culture is what you want to change. And number two, every single person out there, regardless of age, job, whatever they're doing, they can affect change in their own life by waking up to maybe what they're doing in their own life, in their patterning with women.
Yeah. I mean, we just again, it's not what we're bringing awareness to right now. It's not rocket science. This is just giving people opportunity. So everybody that is in a job or is leading a staff of people, or all you got to do is just make those mindset changes and think about what you're doing before you do it. And we're making a cultural change here. I mean, I'm sad. Like, listen, it's really hard for me right now to be a white male, in entertainment right now. It's actually very hard. because I advocate so much for equality throughout everything that I do. Not because I have to, because I want to recognize great talent, and it comes from all sources. And so I don't want to be in my, an elderly guy and things to be in the same position. I just can't. It literally makes me really upset and sad, because I had women who were my idols growing up, and that was just because they were my idols, not because they're women, because they were, and that's who I grew up around. So, we have the power to make the change, but we have to work together. And so I always say, I don't want to be in a world where it's women supporting women. I want to be in a world where it's people supporting each other.
Right. I'm a humanist. I'm not a feminist, is what I like to say. I think it's really important. And I know the David Schwimmer movement, I believe, is new. The hashtag, check out, ask more of him. I believe that there's a website. And what he talks about is the culture. He talks about, this isn't a Hollywood issue. This is within are your friends doing something, like in the frat, literally. And you're just, go on, guy, haze that woman, or, go have sex with her. And I'm not judging anything, but there's a way in everyone's little world and little microcosm to wake up to what your behaviors and your patterns must be. Is that what you experience, Ilyssa?
I've never honestly, I've never seen anybody, to be honest with you, stand up for someone else on a set, whether it's men or women. And that's kind of interesting, because everybody, especially in Hollywood, people are feeling so lucky to get to that place they're in, that they're terrified to make waves. And I think that it's really amazing that there are people who are finally willing to step up and make those waves, because they need to be made.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that's the essence of the Harvey Weinstein issue and why it went on for decades.
Well, agents and managers and everybody enabled that because they were afraid to make waves.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you go back to the business issue, how do people vote with their pocketbooks? How do people affect change? Because the people out there watching, they go to the movies, and they're actually putting their dollars behind, right?
Well, you can buy my movie every day. That would be great. Go to the iTunes, The Standoff.
I love it.
However,
right.
the other way, you are voting with your pocketbook, and it is about going to see movies. And if you do go, people in Hollywood right now are blown away with what Black Panther did.
Yeah.
They're blown away with what Wonder Woman did, and you can bet every time there's something that does really well, everybody runs out to try and copy it. And the thing about Hollywood, there's always a joke that nobody ever wants to be the first person to give an opinion. And I used to work with a male executive that would crack me up, because every time we'd have to read a script, we'd come in the next day and he'd say, "So what'd you think?" And I'd always give my opinion, and it was very well thought out and very intelligent, and I gave it for free because I wanted to show how smart I was and how creative I was. And then I'd say, "What'd you think?" "Oh, we're on the same page." "Yeah, I thought the same thing too, we're on the same page." And finally I got tired of it, and I would make him give his opinion first, and he would stumble through things, because nobody wants to put their opinion on the line, because they're terrified if they've got the opinion, that is unpopular, they're going to lose their job or lose their position of power. Whereas I always felt my strength was in having a strong opinion. And people would joke about me that I'm the one that would come in with an opinion, and that it was my New York brashness.
I think that's really amazing, and you guys, definitely support the standoff, support women in film. I think
movies.
I think going to movies and supporting female-dominated movies starts turning the needle a different way. Like, we have power that we don't realize. So, Danny, back to you. New Filmmakers LA. I met you on the red carpet.
We met on the red carpet.
We met.
That's a Hollywood story.
It's a Hollywood story. My life changed ever. It really did.
It really was an amazing. We just bonded,
beautiful.
And I've stalked you ever since.
You have
not in that way, guys.
Please do.
I do. I stalk people in the best possible way. I'm just a fan. So tell me, you grew up in England. You grew up the son of a single mother who had an enormous impact on you. Then how did you make that jump to LA and starting New Filmmakers? So share that story.
Well, by the way, she says hello.
Hello.
She loves you. She literally,
she's in my group.
she
Forever
is
Fierce,
a
go,
groupie
go, go.
just like I am of you, Catherine. And I just want to advocate.
I love my groupies.
Because you're always advocating for other people. And I just want to say that I'm so grateful to know you. You're one of the best humans I've met out here. And for what you're doing and everything that you do, and just with such authenticity and beautiful movements you're making and platforms you're creating. I'm so honored to know you and what you're doing, because it really is incredible.
With that, I'll just end the show.
I'm going to second that, by the way.
Oh my God!
Absolutely.
#humbled. Holy smokes!
And I just met Alyssa and I want to have tea with her
yeah,
and scones. I
and
really
we're
do.
going,
It's
or a
amazing.
cocktail at New Filmmakers.
well, a few cocktails.
Open
Yeah.
bar.
A dry martini. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I'm not. This was not on cards for me. You know, I watched my mother work really, really hard, and she really did, and she did everything for her children. I had a father that was out of the picture that was abusive, and so it really had a ripple effect on all of us. And coming through that, and my mother, who was so amazing and wondrous. And so, you know, I'm from a small little town. It was never supposed to be here. But my mum gave me the belief in the impossible. And so that's why I'm here. But I could have been anything. I could have been, you know, doing anything and shit. As long as you're happy, you know, that's all I care about. Of course, she's very proud, whatever it is I'm doing. But that journey to come in here, you know, again, I think a lot of your achievements sometimes is actually come through your failures. You know, or things that you recognize that you may not have succeeded in, because you become stronger. And my goodness, like, we've all got our own story, but have we all been through certain things? And we're like, how are we still going? How are we still here? And I think the thing to communicate, what I like to communicate when I'm making different speeches to people and to inspiration to other people, is that, you know, believe it or not, everyone's got a journey. And mine was, I'm from a small little town. It was like very, very crazy. I developed a love for entertainment because actually that's where I felt comfortable. I thought, oh, it's just a bunch of misfits like me. This is great, perfect, awesome, you know?
I love that you just said that, and it's okay if I just jump in here. Forever Fierce, our community that I started, you know, I started it, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't think anyone was going to follow me, and it might be considered a bunch of misfits. I considered myself kind of a misfit.
I embrace it. I love it.
You know,
Sure.
and I think that's really a beautiful thing, and maybe it's the rise of the misfit. You know?
Yeah.
It's the rise of daring to be different. Because
Yeah.
for me, like when I was a
Yeah.
kid, my name is spelled funny, like Ilyssa.
I love it.
Every year I got to school and the new teacher would be
Oh,
like,
no,
Debbie,
yeah.
Cindy. And then they'd stop at my name and I would
Aw.
get this uncomfortable negative attention. I also had this big frizzy hair at the time and I was never comfortable. I hated it. Now I love it. I don't want to be like Debbie and Cindy, and I want to be different. Sorry, Debbie and Cindy. Those are two of my best friends from school. But you know what I mean? It's like I want to be different because being different defines me.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about, if you want to call it a misfit or just daring to be
Yeah,
yourself.
a misfit
Yeah.
has sort of a negative.
Yeah.
I mean it in the best possible
Yeah, I
way.
don't think it's
in
a
that-
negative at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in that you maybe didn't fit into that cultural norm.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can establish maybe that's what we're doing, establishing a new norm
Mm-hmm.
with people that, like you said, are stronger because of the broken places.
Yeah. I mean, I was, you know, I got on well with everybody, and sometimes I was a soft touch at school because was always got on well with people, and you know, it caused people to take advantage of me. I got a bit of bullying, and it really took away my confidence. And so, you know, up to the age of 16, I wasn't a very confident person at all. But kind of entertainment saved me, and I think a lot of people, and particularly those people that bullied me, are like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen, you know, and I really overcame what I experienced, because that really did actually affect me even to this day. And so, you know, the fact that entertainment gave me a path, and I hope that it does for others as well, you know. That's what we're trying to do, that we're trying to create a platform for people like, there's someone like me, oh my goodness, maybe it's okay to be like that. You know?
I love that, and I would imagine you could really relate to that, Ilyssa. It's interesting that we united through Meredith O'Connor.
Oh, we love
Absolutely.
Meredith.
Right?
Yes.
And I was at the red carpet with Meredith, who's all about anti-bullying platform, and you, we
Meredith.
met
To direct
through
a movie about her life.
Exactly. So how do you relate to what Danny just said about, not that you were necessarily bullied, but maybe?
I was always different. There's no doubt in my mind that I was different. And I felt like, I almost feel like as a child, like as an adult, I feel like I need to be this overachiever because there's so many things I didn't do as a kid because I was afraid, or I didn't want to put myself on the line, where there were some kids who, like through entertainment, I wouldn't even be in a school play because I was afraid I couldn't sing, I couldn't act, or it was going to brand me in one group. And so for me, I feel like all the things I didn't do as a kid, I'm trying to achieve as an adult. And I came from a place where my mother, you know, wanted good for me, but it's funny because I've talked about how my mom died of cancer when she was 45 and I was about 16, and I'd be in the hospital with her, and she was trying to fix me up with doctors because she just wanted me to get married, and she just wanted me to be taken care of, and it was like, well, why don't you be an X-ray technician? You can meet a doctor. And I just remember being in the elevator as this secretly rebellious, because I didn't want to rock the boat with my sick mom, but rebellious teenager who just like wanted to go out partying all night. And I grew up on the outskirts of New York where you could do that and could have so much fun. And I used to like do that at night. I'd go to all these clubs in this like secret world that was so fun. And then I'd be in the elevator with my mother and one of her doctors, and she was like trying to hook us up.
That's so funny.
So I wasn't raised to do what I do.
I think that's an amazing story, and I think a lot of people probably relate to that and the not fitting into the box.
Right.
But I also think, because you guys are both in the film industry, it seems to me there's a lot of people that are drawn to acting or entertainment because they've been bullied, because they've had low self-esteem, because they've been abused, 100%. Because it's like it allows them to bring out something else inside of themselves. Would you say that's true? You go ahead, Danny.
I'll take that, Danny. That's yours, Danny. I'm just going to go with yes.
It fascinates me. Sometimes when you hear like acceptance speeches of achievements by some of these people in the public eye, and they sort of have the same array of like, oh, I can't believe I'm here, like, like a deer in headlights, like, because I think every flashback they've gone through, or everything they tried hard in their world and their life, and the times they may have been bullied or may have slept in their car, and all those things have just like flashed past them, and now they're up here and they're like, how am I here? Like, I can't believe this moment is happening. So I think sometimes we have a misconception that these are a bunch of rich people just getting awards, because a lot of people in entertainment, and the one thing I love about entertainment and I love about living in Los Angeles is that we've got an open door and we're welcoming. We've got a lot of work to do, we have, but the entertainment industry is definitely an industry that is trying to, draw bridges and draw closure to areas that we've not accepted before. And so I think, honestly, I feel like people, lots of people have stories. I think it's interesting to find out about it.
That's a really important point, excuse me, and that's something I talk a lot on social media, because be it Hollywood, a movie like you guys are doing, or a post on social media, you can't judge what's behind that picture that looks so beautiful or that film that's so beautiful. There's a story, isn't there? And movies wouldn't get made if there wasn't a powerful story, right, Ilyssa?
I think so. I think that every movie starts with a powerful story, and it's, as we talked about, a little bit metaphoric, like we were talking about The Shape of Water.
Yeah,
you were saying,
Shape
so
of
what's
Water.
this about? It's a woman
I haven't seen it.
I know,
I don't get it.
And I said, okay, it's a metaphor, but what it was that spoke to me was it was this beautiful love story about a woman who saw beyond gills. And that's kind of what it was. And it was also beautifully shot and beautifully acted and so well done. And like I said, I waited till like the last minute to see it because it sounded absurd. And then I watched it and I was like, oh my God, that's so touching. It was beautiful. And so I think that, there is a story behind everything, and that's what inspires people. Like for me, I'm also dyslexic, so I could never write until I got a great computer with spell check. And now I'm a writer. And, but I never could be that. And I think that the one thing about Hollywood is it allows you to defy your limitations. And
that's great.
Go ahead.
No, that's great. I just know you go. That's great.
And that's what it is. It allows us to go beyond that kid with a weird name who can't spell and reverses numbers. And I said, I just can't be put in this box because my brain doesn't belong in a box. So I jumped, when they say out of the box, literally, I jumped out of the box and came out here and created a new box, and that box always changes. But at the end of the day, we are all still a collection of our experiences, and that's what makes us who we are and what shapes us.
I love that, a collection of our experiences.
I can't take credit for it. Someone else probably said it. They probably they said it more eloquent than I, but if you want to quote me on it.
No, I love it. Most for sure. My goodness.
Well, something else, Danny, you're really supportive of New Filmmakers LA. It's about actually giving new filmmakers a chance, isn't it? Supporting people you may not have necessarily seen at the box office, or people that don't have this enormous budget. Tell us more about your mission.
All I can say, it's a dream. I'm so in love with our filmmakers that are creating these stories on a local and global scale. Just this past month we had a film from Senegal of a young, amazing Muslim rapper living in these kind of like, quite difficult areas, and it was so happened that a filmmaker, she was brilliant, she couldn't get her film to be made, and so she discovered this girl while she was there and made a whole documentary about her, and now it's winning loads of awards. That's just the greatness of like finding your creative art. But just being able to, because New Filmmakers is a global organization. We're based here in Los Angeles, and our advocacy is really to sort of, showcase emerging talent, from here in Los Angeles, create opportunities for those people that live in LA that don't actually feel that this is a world that they're entitled to. They are. And so that's why I was the vice chair of BAFTA's Youth Education Committee in Los Angeles, and was helping to encourage, other young children to, say, hey, film is right here if you want to do it, but if not, gain a bit of confidence and go off and do what you want to do in your world. But with New Filmmakers, it's great. Every single month, we have filmmakers like from Pasadena to, Dubai, and the fact that we just have all these amazing storytellers, And one thing I love about New Filmmakers is actually we don't really recognize the issues of what the industry is going. We have a very good equality of female directors every single month. We have great filmmakers from every continent of the earth. We're showcasing stories from all over the world, and we want to embrace and help and encourage and teach people. What I love is when one of our audience members that's from here in the United States and says, wow, I've never seen a film from Lebanon before, or I've never understood that perspective, and I think that's what we're doing, is we're educating through the moving image. And these filmmakers who it means so much to them to have their film, all that hard work they've put into it, and there is their moment. And so to be there with them in that moment, and I do all the interviews with them as well, it's just beautiful. And New Filmmakers isn't just one of those film festivals that just leaves you and runs off. Like, we've got, for example, if it's a film that we advocate towards, we've got people, opportunities to go and have a meeting with Netflix and Amazon. We do mentoring throughout. We always try and encourage, and we want to embrace our alumni into their successes.
That's awesome. And that is the difference that we were talking about. You're not just going to say, be in a program for a year.
It's not a hashtag. It's not. It's an actual.
It's an action.
It's like one thing I recognize as when I was getting my first film when I was a little youngster is that one of the big things is cost of having to go to an international film festival. Well, I got a partnership with an airline, and now we're flying in our filmmakers from Europe, which is just a stepping stone to making their life a little bit easier in terms of them not having to worry about the finance of a flight last minute. They can just go and they can enjoy, and it means so much to them, because that moment gives them confidence that, oh my goodness, I can do it.
I think that's really powerful. Ilyssa, in your experience, do you see filmmaking, the creativity, sharing your story, a healing process for a lot of these people that are drawn into it?
I think it really is, and I think that what makes it even more interesting, and where Danny's coming from, he works with independent filmmakers, and that's really cool. And I'm kind of caught between the two, because my career has led me toward studios and that kind of thing, but also when I started out, you couldn't make a film with your iPhone. And it's so much easier to make films right now than it ever was. And I don't want to use the word easier, perhaps less expensive, or it's more accessible. Technology has created ways that independents can go do that. And what is terrific about what Danny does is then you don't need a studio to then release your movie. And you can showcase it and profile it. And that's kind of important, is that they can still get out there. You don't have to follow the path that everybody has followed to get recognized and get noticed.
Yeah. I think that's really important, because I think many people out there, look at you, Ilyssa, you're in Hollywood, Cinderella stories and Hilary Duff and all these
hanging out
big
by the
stars,
pool, living the dream.
Hanging out
I
by the pool.
I actually think of Cinderella. I think of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I have yet to see you hang out by a pool, but anyone out there really has this. They have, for the most part, hopefully, people have some sort of tool, a computer.
Tell a story.
They can tell a story. So, Danny, Ilyssa, what would you say to somebody that maybe just has this and they have a dream inside, but they might not have the belief that you had? Where do they start? What do they do if they want to start sharing their story?
Gosh, just do it. Just start
do it.
writing for yourself. Start filming things for yourself. Like I have friends who are actors that want to be famous. And there's a difference between being an actor because you love acting and you love performing versus wanting to be famous. And we kind of live in a world where it's a little different because now you can do a YouTube video and suddenly you're famous. Here's how I put my makeup on, and suddenly you've got 1 million views. And that's the thing. If you have a story you want to tell, just do it. Do it for you. I mean, I used to, like I said, though I'm dyslexic, I used to write. I mean, the first script I ever wrote, I hand wrote. It didn't go anywhere, but I wrote it for me. And that's kind of what you do, is make your movie for you and see where it takes you. Just take a step.
Danny, when Ilyssa says that, because I know there's obviously been a massive transformation in you from, like you said, this bullied kid to now the head of New Filmmakers, having opportunities, the director of Bridesmaids. What was this internal process like for you?
I mean, it's the hard times in life, just the dealing of life that we have to deal with. That's actually the hardest part because I can't tell you how many times I have to go on a stage, be in front of camera, and life is going on behind all of that and dealing with that. And for me, in a weird way, entertainment's been a therapy for me. So whether you watch it for therapy or whether you're in it for therapy, it's therapy. It's therapeutic for me every day. This is therapeutic for me for all the other things that are going on in my life to be with both of you today. And so I say that, don't let anything, like you say, just do it. Don't let anything stand in your way. I've always had this dream that one day, if I ever get to turn around and say to the world and accept a speech out there that goes out, I would just want to sit down on the edge of the stage and tell people, for all those people out there that feel like they may be lacking direction, they may be not knowing where their next turn is, they may not know how to start. Like, listen, it's okay. Believe it or not, we have been, and there are many people in this room that have been where you are, where you feel like, I don't know if I can take anymore. I don't know if I can keep going on. I don't know if I can do this, And so knowing that you can, it's just a case of, like you say, taking it, exploring your ideas and doing it. Like, every single filmmaker says exactly what you said, Ilyssa. I always say, what one piece of advice would you give to a filmmaker? And they always say, just do it. If you've got the budget, if you've just got your phone, there is no restrictions now for making your own content, but for whatever that is in your life.
And you can get it out there, too. You can put your video on YouTube. This reminds me a little bit of a story that I want to share that was so inspiring to me, that helps push through those moments, which is, years ago, I made this movie that was this family movie with kids and a monkey. A group of monkeys, actually.
Sounds like a shape of water in a different way.
I say it was called Summer of the Monkeys, and it was about these escaped circus monkeys. And the movie turned out incredibly well. Disney wound up picking it up, and we wound up doing a lot of film festival circuits. And I was in Santa Barbara, and we were getting an award, and they showed the movie for a bunch of school kids. And at the end of the movie, we did a Q&A, and people asked questions. And as I was leaving, going to the parking lot to my car, this girl who was like 12 years old comes up to me and goes, hey, you're the one that made that movie, right? And I said, yeah, I was one of them. And she said, well, how do you do what you do? I want to do that. What can I do? And that to me was like, oh, wow, I have more power than I think because I'm reaching out. And it changed what I chose to work on.
That's powerful. That's an Oprah moment.
It was an Oprah moment in a sense. And I said, I want to do things for this market because they're pure.
You guys are both planting seeds right now.
I hope so.
Let's make many gardens.
Yeah. Making many gardens. And I love that. I started that, like I said, the Forever Fierce community, and we have women in there sharing stories. Like just the other day, I have a big team on the back end, and they'll say, you got to read this, and you got to read this. The stories these women are opening up about are blowing me away. And I think it's because we're united in, like you said, in finding strength in these broken places, in the vulnerability, as Brene Brown would say. The shame that we kind of carry because of our life experiences. You guys are doing something really unbelievable with film and planting seeds and changing lives.
Just remember, when you're on the sidewalk, you see grass growing between the cracks. Life happens in the cracks.
Did you make that up?
I did just make that up.
Did you make that
I did.
up?
I'm going to take credit. I hope I did.
I'm going to
take credit. When you were saying that imagery,
that's amazing.
That imagery popped into my head about how whenever you're like on a sidewalk and there's always like broken pavement, there's always something growing.
That's a really incredible metaphor. And here I am. I actually just got to be
I'm
directed by this woman this weekend.
I directed this
that?
wonderful woman on
What the
Saturday in a
heck?
commercial. It was amazing.
It was amazing. I got to actually
You're
see
amazing.
you. You are. You are. No, you are. No,
It's
you
great
are.
to be in this
No,
room
you
with
are.
amazingness right now. It's brilliant.
Danny, you're amazing.
No,
you are. No, you are.
It's no.
All I'm
it's
thinking with this
beautiful.
guy is, wow, a young Cary Grant. What can I do with him?
That is
do
good.
something.
Right?
That
Just listen to that
is
voice. It's
good.
like
I was
the
doing Shakespeare
charisma.
on the stage because I just love
Yeah.
playing with swords.
Yeah.
This is my thing. In London, but no. It's no. Sorry. Continue your amazingness.
You.
What this made me think about was Reese Witherspoon. I just saw her on Oprah doing an OWN show, and I think she's in a movie with Oprah. And she was saying on this video, like, why do we go, oh God, no, not me, and I'm not pretty, and I'm not this, and I'm not smart, and I'm not. We are culturally programmed to put ourselves down and put other women down. And what I just saw was so beautiful. It's like, no, you're awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you're awesome. Why aren't we doing more of that out there?
It's true.
I think part of it has to do with there are only enough slots for women in certain roles. So there's this sort of, I'm going to lift you, but you might be my competition.
The competition thing.
The competition thing. So you and I are not competing with each other, obviously, because you are talent and I'm behind the camera. And so for me, I love nurturing talent. That's my favorite part of directing, is working with talent. And when people surprise themselves with the things that they do because of something I said, it's kind of cool, and then somebody else is watching it. It's like a third party now watches it and feels something. It's kind of amazing.
I think that's really important.
Yeah.
That's a whole other show.
Right.
We
Yeah.
had Alexander Paul from Baywatch Babe on the earlier show, and there's nothing like sitting next to a Baywatch Babe. No, my 15-year-old self would have shrunk down big time.
Right.
But she
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yeah.
She talked about very openly. She actually, when she entered Baywatch, she didn't feel that way because she'd done so much self-work. So I think that's a whole nother kick-ass show that we are going to have to do about women, really supporting women and lifting women up and ending the competition.
I always want to add into that, actually, what you both just said, because I think, firstly, with regards to if you're, casting or auditioning, stuff like that, I've actually never seen it more open than today than ever before. And, when I've actually been in the cast room, my enjoyment factor is, wow, they are so open-minded. They have no idea what they want, but when they know what, they'll see it when they know what they want. But it was so great to actually be like, wow, we're all going for the same part. We're all so different. This is incredible. How awesome is this? And second thing is labels. Like, I'm hoping we're going to gradually move in where it's not just like, this person is a woman and this person's British or whatever it may be. It's just great talent or great whatever it is. It's just them as a human.
As a human. So, to kind of wrap things up, I think you ended on a beautiful point. Women need to support women. Men need to support women. Women need to support men. Humans need to support humans, right? And the beauty is really in the broken places. The grass that grows up from, like you said, the side.
From the
that, and that's Ilyssa Goodman. You can credit her on that one.
I feel like it needs to be a hashtag.
A hashtag. How do we do it? Hashtag.
Let's work on it and hashtag that.
Next show we'll come up with a hashtag. But Danny, I want to make sure people know where to find you. We are celebrating Women's Independence Month. You can celebrate if you're in LA right here at New Filmmakers LA, open bar.
Yeah, so it's
Ilyssa will be at the open bar.
That's my takeaway.
Open bar
Go girls!
I know, really, right? Open bar with film. Come in every single month. We're advocating and celebrating. This month, we are focusing in on the fact that it's Women's Independence Month. So we dedicate a whole program which is showing there are great, talented female directors out there all year through, and they're out there. They're not hiding. There's no restrictions in great female talent. Let's just put that out there. And so we celebrate that on Saturday, March 24th in the South Park Center in downtown Los Angeles. It's going to be an absolute fantastic night. And the audience don't know, and you guys do know, is that I'm creating a movement for men to step up and support women. And I'm going to unleash this at the events. And because we, together we're going to be better. Okay, but let's work together. All right, and let's advocate for those changes. So come and join us. come for a drink, come and meet people. You might find your next makeup artist, you may find your new husband, whatever it may be. Come have a good time.
Is Alyssa's mother back here?
Yeah, I heard that voice. She's telling me, yeah.
There'll be a doctor there.
Goodness, you guys.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolutely fabulous show, and you guys definitely check out New Filmmakers LA. Danny's always running incredible events, hugely supportive of women, and like you said, he's launching his own movement. So hopefully we'll get him, David Schwimmer, back on the show together and talk about this movement about supporting men supporting women, but also humans supporting humans. Let's end the labels and end the bullying, and we are stronger together.
Yeah.
So you guys, cheers beauties, stay fierce.
Stay fit.